I'm excited to break away the funnel, to break it apart and to think differently in terms of how we're reaching the consumer for the long haul.
Hi everyone, Pierre-Loic from Traack here. You're listening to the Fast Track, the show where marketing change agents discuss transforming their marketing practice for the future. This season of the Fast Track is all about social commerce, or the meeting of e-commerce and the creator economy. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Tiffani Carter, who's now Vice President of Integrated Marketing at Thrive Causemetics. I've known Tiffani for some time now, and I've always been impressed by her as an operator and as a thinker. In this episode, we'll run through Tiffani's transition into her new role at Thrive Causemetics, the collapse of the marketing funnel, and the essential role influencers now play in driving conversion. Tiffani, welcome to the Fast Track. I'm so excited for our conversation today. You and I have known each other for a bit, but you have a new gig now. So before we even get started, just tell us a little bit about what's going on.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. We have known each other for a little while now, and I think I've been through a few different iterations of influencer marketing tactics with you. But yeah, so now I'm at Thrive Causemetics, Causemetics, and I'm the Vice President of Integrated Marketing. So for us, what that means is I am in charge of communications and creative and cause marketing engagement.
So exciting. A bit of a change from your prior job. I think you went down a few zeros in the headcount number versus Shiseido, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, Shiseido was, one of the top 10 global brands in beauty. And now I'm at one of the top independent direct-to-consumer cause beauty brands. And so I think that is a huge difference in reach. It's a huge difference in the amount of employees and the way we work, which is kind of cool.
Interesting. So we'll get to this today at some point because I have plenty of questions on the matter. But before we do, just researching Thrive Causemetics, I came across an article from Beauty Independent that labeled your new company the next beauty unicorn. So help me understand what makes Thrive Causemetics so special.
When I think of when someone says something is a unicorn, right? It's something you don't see often, or that's the elusive creature, if you will. So I think that what makes Thrive Causemetics so special is its authenticity in both beauty and cause, and how they're both intertwined in the brand mission, and with products that are high performing. Now, the products are also clean. But I think that clean, high performing products is a point of entry at this point in most independent brands, and even some of the bigger brands that are making their products more clean. But clean products, high performance, cause-based in the fabric of the brand is what makes it a unicorn.
Very interesting. And I'm assuming it yields good performance results, a lot of loyalty from your base of customers and a lot of good things, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think the thing about it that's kind of fascinating to watch is how leaned in the community is to the brand and how much our products are beloved by the community. So when you think about the Liquid Lash Extensions mascara, which is one of the first tubing mascaras to be long lasting, to really lengthen the lashes. And because it was the first of its kind, it really set the trend and set the demand for that type of product, also to be made quite clean. And I think that in and of itself is what makes the consumer so passionate about the brand, right? So you have products like that. And even into our skincare products, the consumer is just so excited about everything that we launch. Every time we launch a product, we get a lot of consumer enthusiasm right away. And we have a lot of reviews. Our customer service team is always inundated with a lot of amazing comments. So I think that that just proves to us that we have a strong community. What's exciting for me is to have a completely different set of goals, a completely different vantage point within the beauty industry. And not just the beauty industry, but the philanthropic industry, right? So we want to be one of the top philanthropic brands overall. We're not just talking about beauty, and a top direct-to-consumer beauty brand as well. But I think when I'm sitting in this seat now where I am, and I have the opportunity to help shape the future of such a special brand, that's a different vantage point for me. Where when I was at Shiseido, I like to say, my goal was to help dust off a somewhat older legacy brand that hadn't been at the forefront, certainly not in a social media digital way. And I think we worked really hard to move the needle for Shiseido over the last 4 years. But now this is a completely different set of goals that I have to work to attain.
Well, as you're mentioning this, let's dive in a little bit on this for a second. I'd love to understand what is still fresh in your mind, because you're pretty new to your new company and didn't leave your older one so long ago. Mm-hmm. Help me understand the pros and cons, because you came from a place that you probably had a much bigger hammer at your disposal. Mm-hmm. Bigger brand, more firepower, et cetera, to one where you're about 100 people, if I'm not mistaken, at Thrive Causemetics, much more nimble, probably much more reactive. But how does it affect your day-to-day? How does it affect the way you operate the business? I'm really curious.
I wouldn't say that it's much different when it comes to operating, or in terms of pros and cons, let's say, because for me, what I feel strongly about is I need to bring data to the decisions that we're making. Now, the difference when you have, what you might consider a conglomerate or a bigger hammer is not always necessarily mean a bigger budget or more you can do. It just means that you're making decisions very specifically based on the audience that you have to reach. And a lot of times, whereas you have a lot more kind of team players within those decisions that are being made within the company, you have certainly a different audience that you're trying to reach. And also, we're talking retailers, we're talking the difference between, the growth of e-commerce versus brick and mortar, et cetera, specialty retailers versus department store, online niche retailers, all of that playing, the big A, I won't even talk about them, but those are the things that you are thinking of. So you have more variables that play into the decision making. Whereas I think something like Thrive Causemetics, where it is absolutely more nimble, we have less variables and we have quite a controlled environment because we're direct to consumer only, because we control the quality control from the product development to the packaging, to the marketing and the messages, and the whole customer journey reaching the consumer at the end is so much more controlled. So there's less variables within it. However, in both instances, I still need to have the proper data to make informed decisions. The variables is what the shift is, and I could also just kind of add to that even though there are different variables, I don't know if there's more or less necessarily. They're just different. Whether you're a small brand or a big brand, you still have to win the hearts of the customer at the end of the day.
Fair enough. Let's switch gear a little bit. And as you know, the theme for this season of the Fast Track is social commerce, meeting influencer marketing. And this has been my thesis, or the way I've been sharing this, that COVID has acted as an accelerant to a lot of changes in the world, but particularly when it comes to influencer marketing. It has moved influencer marketing on one side up funnel towards brand values and purpose, and on the other side down funnel towards social commerce. And so there's this notion of deepening the funnel. And I know you don't agree with me, and I'd like you to set me straight on this.
I just don't think the consumer journey is it can be shaped in a funnel as much as it used to be. I recognize that there's our stages within the consumer decision. And there's certainly the awareness stage, the consideration stage, and the conversion stage, if you want to simplify it into the three. However, I think that sometimes it can be somewhat linear in the sense that the consumer is entering from kind of an interest level, and then she can go right to conversion. It's just a shorter journey, quite honestly. I mean, I think I was talking to someone today about this, how, if I need to find the best new wireless microphone for at home work, and I search wireless microphone, I can't wait to get the ad that's going to pop up in Instagram next, because I know that I'm going to be served something that I'm going to consider. And I purposely search just to go into Instagram, because then I'm going to get the ad, because I know what's going to happen. And so when I get that ad, I have quickly researched that product. I go to the feed. I might do a little bit of checking on reviews, and then I'm going to purchase. And I may or may not purchase it in the app. I may or may not purchase it on the site. I may purchase it from another online vendor, but that's how quick it happens. And I think that consumers know what they want. They just need help deciding which brand, which of the products, which model to purchase. And so that's where I think the funnel has changed in its journey, its shape, if you will. And I think that consumer model, the journey that we're all used to, also doesn't necessarily apply to your spending decisions, right? And I think that people think about marketing tactics in the funnel, like what are we doing from an upper funnel perspective? What's mid funnel? What's lower funnel? I'm excited to break away the funnel, to break it apart and to think differently in terms of how we're reaching the consumer for the long haul.
Break away the funnel. I love the idea. You got me thinking with the points that you're making, because I absolutely recognize the sort of the intertwinedness, is that a word, of awareness, advocacy, conversion, purchase, etc., and that it's gotten a lot more fluid, a lot faster. And the image that comes to mind for me is that we've been used over decades of this notion of a slow moving funnel, from the ad into your newspaper to my trip to the car dealership to go buy it 3 months later, right? If that. And what we've observed here is through social changes and technology is the collapsing of all these steps. And what's fascinating when you start thinking about this in this way is that because they're so close to each other now, you can afford the back and forth between stages as well, and to be surprised at the last minute to change your mind and go with a different brand or a different product or a better price somewhere. Or you can accelerate all these steps and go from you following this influencer on Instagram and TikTok, and they recommend a product and you go straight and buy it. You had not heard about this brand before, but somehow trust the person, move straight to purchase.
Yes.
And so the thing that is fascinating for companies, and maybe here I'm referring more of your former employer than your new one, because this is where the nimbleness helps, is that marketing departments historically have organized, to your point, budgets, but also teams around the depth of the funnel. And if what you're observing is that now it all shrunk into one big sandwich, what does it mean to the way people work? Like, what is it that we need to do to get out of an antiquated org structure that may not fit what the consumer is expecting today?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I do think that for most of us, we still think quite traditionally in the structure of teams. And I think more than anything, it's based on expertise and having deep expertise and ability to apply that expertise to a very specific stage of the funnel, if you will, or stage of the consumer journey, whether that be organic social media owned channels to paid social media. But I think if I can think of a immediate correlation to Thrive Causemetics being a smaller company, what we are able to do is kind of cut out the need for so many layers and so many external experts, because we have a really strong internal group of experts that are going directly to media buying stages, right? So it's not like we need to have, let's say, third-party agencies that are doing the media buying, and there's so many ways to use your own data and to make sure you're capturing your own data to make informed decisions. I'm using paid social as an example here, but I think that that's part of it. That to me is part of the collapse, if you will. And then the teams are working so closely together when it comes to immediately understanding how the consumer is resonating with an ad or with a product messaging or with a product payoff. As far as the consumer will reach out to our customer service team, which is our customer service team is unparalleled, a fantastic team that services our community. And that information can get funneled directly to the marketing and social and paid teams to make decisions, to turn off an ad, to change the messaging, to accelerate an ad because it's resonating so much. Or consumers are all loving this product, but they're using a different language to describe why they love it and applying that immediately to the ad today, tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? And I think that, we have an internal creative team. So I think that that's where that nimble aspect really does come into play and make a difference.
Interesting. So what you're saying in effect is rather than a structural reorg, this is more also a collapsing of organization by removing friction and making sure that data and insights flies across teams faster so that you can adapt your stages and your steps. Interesting.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very
exactly.
cool. So let's talk about the Thrive Causemetics position on e-commerce meets influencer marketing. So you're a D2C brand. So I would assume that e-commerce is pretty important to you. How do you see your influencer marketing strategies supporting this effort today, and what's your plan for the future?
So what we are learning every day as we go is how the consumer shops and how she resonates with what she sees on social media, and who is his or her trusted advocates of the brand that they make decisions from. And I think when it comes to putting our product out there for the consumer to make the decision, so we have to inform the consumer that this product exists so that she can make a decision. However, I think that there's two tracks here. There's making sure that we're continuously communicating those products and that messaging and that point of difference and our cause, bigger than beauty, to the consumer that we have, right? Obviously email and CRM is a huge, very critical component to the work that we do. But from an influencer marketing perspective, I would say it's really more focused at the moment on content creators. And I say that nuance between influencers and content creators, depending on who you ask and depending on who the influencer or the content creator is, they like to be called one or the other. They're quite interchangeable. But at the end of the day, it's helping us develop that authentic content to show how the product performs. That is bar none the most impactful way to get our message to resonate within our community. And I think that what we'll see in the future is a scale up of that type of content. I think we're already seeing it, quite honestly. A lot of the social ads that I'm seeing are quite similar in that same kind of real user feeling. And that's where the content creator is so important. But what we need to continue to iterate on is, who is that content creator? who are those advocates for the immediate and long term that resonate with the consumer? How do we diversify those content creators and those advocates so we're widening our consumer base and reaching more people? But to answer your question, from the influencer marketing perspective, it's about content creation, I think, is our number one component to the correlation between influencer marketing and e-commerce.
Got it. So content as a conduit to signal to sales. So it's
yes, exactly.
two-step, though, as we discussed, very short steps.
Yeah, exactly.
Two-step process.
Right. Yeah. You're always so good at taking what I say and making it a really good soundbite. I'm going to take all your sound bites.
Well, you come with the smarts, and I'm just packaging them.
Yeah, you package them really well. Exactly.
Are you partnering with your influencers to help drive sales this holiday season? With Traacker's new social commerce capabilities, you can select the best influencers to help increase traffic to your e-commerce site, create tracking links and streamline commission payments to influencers, and measure the impact of every campaign and influencer on your KPIs. From awareness to conversion, Tracker provides the intelligence and tools you need to impact each stage of your customer journey. Reach out at tracker.com to learn more.
Now, one aspect I'm particularly interested in understanding is that clearly the Thrive Causemetics has built something very special. It's a special brand with strong values. It's scaled to a pretty decent level already with, if I'm not mistaken, pretty amazing unit economics in the process without revealing secrets.
Right, of course.
But how do you get to the next level without breaking it is what I'm fascinated. Like, how do you weigh scale versus being true to the brand values, being true to your consumer? So how do you make sure that in the process of scaling, and I'm guessing that with Thrive Causemetics, bringing somebody like you to spearhead marketing, there's probably something like this in mind. How do you make sure that you don't break that magic?
I don't know the full answer to that just yet. I think there's some work to do for us to learn that. I think that we could say, test and fail fast. Sure. I think that a lot of marketers would agree. Thinking big in the sense that how far can we go? And who do we want to reach? I think that when we talk about growing and scaling, that means our goal is to reach new audiences and to maintain our core existing audience, which is any brand's ultimate goal. I think that a lot of brands will talk about getting the younger consumer. I think for us, it's not necessarily about getting a younger consumer. I think it's getting that same psychographic of the consumer who cares very much about a brand that has a cause behind it, but with products that also work really well, without necessarily feeling like we have to be one of the cool kids on the block. We don't need to do that. That's not who we are as a brand, and we don't have to aspire to be that. What we need to do is continue thinking about the customer that we want to reach, who we may not have now. What is it that will turn her head and her attention towards us? And what are the channels that she's consuming to make her decisions? And then how do we reach her with the right messages? And dissecting those messages so that we're targeting those potential consumers with the right messages at the right time, the right place, which is again, nothing new. An old boss of mine used to always say, marketing is all about making choices, right? It's all about just making choices. So I do think that we have to be careful not to break what we've built and to be really true to how the brand was founded. And I think because our founder, Carissa, is so involved, and also she has such a strong vision for this brand, that we will never veer away from that. So though we may test and try, we may fail, we may grow, we may stall and grow again, we'll find new audiences, we may lose some, audience members, but at the end of the day, we're still true to our path. And part of that is in large part because of our founder who helps us navigate that path.
Let me sort of bring it to the next level and please only share things, of course, that are shareable on a recorded line, because that's where we are. Mm-hmm. Have you identified already something in sort of the scaling of the organization that would require one aspect of it to be more of a departure than a continuation? And I'll give you a specific example. Mm-hmm. We need to go multi-channel.
No, I don't know that answer. I don't know that I would share that answer if I did know. I think Thrive Causemetics is at a beautiful point in its growth where we have seen such huge success. We could keep executing how we're executing and continue to see success. However, when you really look at the horizon, we've still got to make sure that we have grown our audience. And I think that, to me, any decision that we make is about nurturing the community by building the community. And I think a lot of that is also based on our causes. A lot of that is rooted in not just the amazing products that we're developing and the amazing products that are already existing in the brand portfolio that continue to get great love, but it's also about the causes. And I think that people are making choices, whether they know that we're a cause-based brand or not. They may not realize they're making these choices in their lives based on that connection. And so I think cause and kind of expanding the visibility of our cause and our cause pillars and our giving partners that we partner with every day is really going to be a game changer for us and help us continue to elevate. I think a lot of people, like I said, don't realize that we're a cause brand. And if you hear cosmetics, you're not always immediately associating it with CAUSC, right? And so I think that how do we make that connection so it's instantaneous? That, to me, is a really important challenge for us, because that's a way to, again, continue nurturing the community without necessarily breaking it by, let's say, a marketing campaign that may be a complete departure, right? We're just kind of leaning in towards what we already have.
So doubling down on your successes.
Doubling down on the successes, leaning into cause. Whether the consumer knows it or not, we're still going to do all the great cause work that we do. Giving is at the heart of this brand. We have giving partners. We have over 400 giving partners that we've donated to, whether it be cash donations or product donations over the course of several years at this point. So I think that that will never change. And so how we get the customer to be more involved in that and understand how their purchase actually makes a difference in a person's life, like that's the connection I think that's going to be important to broaden in terms of the message. I had a thought about COVID I wanted to share too.
Please do.
Well, you had asked about, how your theory and your thesis about how COVID has kind of changed how the consumer shops. And I think that what COVID has done, especially for D2C brands, is bring consumers closer to the brand. And for Thrive Causemetics, I think it only made our community get closer together, faster, if you will. And it gave us a closer connection. And I think that when, people are looking for a reason, they're looking for the product, they're exploring new products, they're open to exploring new products. They're less inhibited by buying something online that they didn't physically try. And they want to be connected to other people that think like them. So I think that COVID definitely did collapse e-commerce in that way, or help, I would say collapse e-commerce. COVID helped reshape how consumers interact with e-commerce. However, I think that it also helped consumers build a larger connection, because of it. And social media did that. And, influencers are pivoting what they're talking about. And you have obviously TikTok growing tremendously. And what does that mean? But also that means that Instagram and TikTok are both aging up and getting more mature. So to me, everyone says, is Instagram going to go away? I don't think so. I think they're both just going to get bigger. And I think we'll see a new player in the game in the next 3 years, because that's just how technology works. And that new player is going to change the game. It's not going to be if Instagram goes away. It's going to be if the new player makes everyone else change the game.
You anticipated my next question, which was, who's next? What's the next platform? Where would you put your money on today if you had to say one of the other networks outside of Instagram and TikTok, where to emerge?
I have no idea. That's the beauty of technology. I mean, there are developers and really, 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 really smart people in a room somewhere building what's next. I mean, nobody saw Airbnb coming. I mean, I'm sure there are people that saw it coming that were in that world of technology, but the consumer didn't see it coming. And then bam, Airbnb, here we are. Uber, same thing. So I think that, those early adapters, and I mean really early adapters, who are testing something new or finding ways to communicate, that will be what accelerates whatever the new platform is, that's going to make us all have to change our marketing strategies based on a new platform. But I will say, I think that there's something about, I don't want to forget about some of the platforms that still have strong audiences, like YouTube and Facebook. Now, Facebook pivoted. People are like, Facebook is dying. Well, Facebook groups are strong. And that's because people found a way to use it in a different way to stay connected, right? Like, it's still about the connectivity. So yeah, Airbnb could create some kind of, connected groups, and they could continue to grow. Who knows? And I think that that's why instead of like thinking about what's new or pivoting for Instagram or pivoting for TikTok, you've got to be pivoting for your brand and your community first, right? And then you have to develop those messages and disseminate those messages across the different channels that the consumer is absorbing.
So Tiffani, as we conclude this podcast, there are two questions that I ask all of my guests. One of them is, who do you look up to for marketing inspiration?
That's a tough one. There are so many smart marketers out there. I absolutely look to my team. I certainly learn from my team every day. And I think that's really, really important to have an amazing team and amazing colleagues within the company at Thrive Causemetics. I think outside of the company, Corey Marchesotto at Elf is someone I admire very much. I just think that the work that she's been doing has really been, I don't want to throw out the word groundbreaking, but certainly I think that she has really thought through how to execute unique campaigns that are specific to the brand and have gotten visibility outside of the brand. And I think also AC Eggleston, who is at Unilever, and I admire her so much also because of her work in diversity, and that she has done an incredible job as a Black woman who I look up to, and brought diverse programs to mass brands in a way that, again, I think brings communities closer together without necessarily breaking the brand story. So that's very sophisticated thinking to me. So yeah, that's what I would say.
That's awesome. And second question, sources of information, whether it's newsletters or podcasts, or where do you turn to again for marketing news?
This is going to sound terrible. I mean, Instagram, honestly, I want to see what other people are posting about. And most of what I follow on Instagram are my colleagues and other editors and professionals, the team at Traack, obviously. I think influencers to a perspective outside of beauty, I think is very, very interesting. Yeah, I just wherever the news leads me, and I say news because Instagram and Facebook are my news feed. So that may lead me anywhere to a story, and a collective of just colleagues that I can always call on.
Awesome. Well, Tiffani, as always, a pleasure. Like I said, I can go on all day, but we'll cut it for now until next time we see each other in real life, hopefully someday soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was great. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks, Tiffani. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Fast Track. Tell us what you thought of this episode by emailing us at ft@tracker.com. That is ft@tracker.com. If you enjoyed this episode, please share with a friend and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening from today. Thanks again, and see you next time.